Joining us now, psychotherapist Robi Ludwig. She's on the story for us. Robi, I think people look at this as a 19-year-old teen mom will say, potentially overwhelmed. Why drown the baby? This dad seemed to love the child. Why not ask for help? Give baby to him.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way a logical person would think, right? Somebody who's thinking logically would think, I'm not ready to have a baby, and have the capacity to give that baby to somebody who can take care of him or her in a safe way. But clearly, this mother was not thinking straight. She could have been a victim of postpartum depression. She may have never wanted the baby. She was sleep deprived. She was having thoughts of harming herself and the child, and there was no one around that she could talk to who could support her in that moment. So in one moment in time, she made the impulsive decision to say, hey, if I could get rid of my baby, then my life would be restored back to normal and I could be happy again. It's faulty thinking and dangerous thinking, clearly.
You know, we heard from the father there. The baby's father is very emotional. Well, he even went on to tell the story that he saw Jenna Falwell the day before and said, no red flags. Here's that, Robin, we'll talk about it.
She had a good personality. She was very nice. She helped me through a lot of things when we were friends. And she was just a good person. I'd never expected her to hurt a fly. Whenever I came over and saw her, she was always holding him and smiling. Like, I never saw her frown and make a, or she was mad that she had him. Like, it was always joyful.
That surprised you to hear that, Robi?
Well, depressed people can often put on a really good face, and how someone feels on the outside is not always how they feel when they're isolated in the moment and they have to deal with a crying baby and they don't have the support system and they feel perhaps they've ruined their lives and they're depressed. So how someone presents on the outside can be very different, and that's why I think we need to look at prevention. Doctors who know kids who are young and having kids, to provide that extra support and outreach, because they can be particularly vulnerable to this kind of depression and not feel comfortable reaching out to others.
Well, and let's talk about that. You know, it just on a forward look here, as far as well, what are signs? Let's say a young mom is having trouble dealing with things. I know postpartum could play in,
yes,
or just being overwhelmed as a new parent.
Well, I think first of all, we need to get the word out there that it is normal to feel overwhelmed as a new parent, and they might expect to feel depressed and have a loss of appetite and feel irritable and might even have thoughts of harming themselves and the baby. And this does not make them a bad person, but what's important to know is that there's treatment out there that can be very helpful. And if we make it okay for moms, especially new moms, to admit that they're not feeling the way they should, or they're not feeling the way they thought they would as a parent, then we open up the conversation and we make it less shameful for them to come out, and we can make the proper interventions that need to be made, hopefully avoiding situations like this, dangerous situations moving into the future.
Got it. Robi, as always, thanks so much. Robi Ludwig on the story for us. And we're learning more about those two middle school girls who cops say were worshiping Satan, planning to murder their classmates and drink their blood from a chalice, then turn around and kill themselves. Well, the police report lays out disturbing details. Again, this is an 11 and a 12-year-old. They spent this past Sunday watching horror movies, then that inspired them to devise this plan to kill. They searched the internet, how to kill using a knife, which is why they brought weapons to school, like knives, scissors, a pizza cutter. They also looked up where to, quote, stab to bleed out the fastest. Again, so disturbing here. Their plan, attend first period, then hide in a girl's bathroom. They'd target smaller kids they could overpower. They hope to kill up to 25 students, pile their bodies up, and then it gets even more disturbing as they want to, again, drink the blood and eat the flesh. After that, they kill themselves, with the goal being, in this sinister plot, to be closer to Satan after death. Wow. Thankfully, their plans are thwarted. Police found out about it and found them hiding in the bathroom. The big question remains, how do two girls, an 11 and 12-year-old, go to a place like this in their mind? It's such a brutal plan. Back with us, our psychotherapist and author of Till Death Do Us Part, Robi Ludwig. Robi, what about that? I mean, this is heinous for anybody, much less an 11, 12-year-old.
Yeah, it's almost like they were brainwashed. And it's interesting, when you Google Satan, you can see that they're trying to appeal. Somebody on the internet is trying to appeal to young kids, or someone out there saying, oh, now you found on the truth and a positive thing. So you could see where a young mind that's easily influenced and wants to feel powerful and is going through that adolescent angst, the disturbed mind might go in that direction.
Got it. So about, the fact they're watching horror movies on Sunday, that's not abnormal. For an 11 and 12-year-old girl to want to watch horror movies and be frightened. But how does it go from that to this?
Well, it sounds like something about watching these horror flicks made them excited, and they over-identified with the characters in this movie, and they wanted to create it in their own reality, almost like a lack of boundaries, where they were creating their own horror film to make them feel special, to make them feel different, to be a part of this Satan occult they thought that they were winning access to. And so clearly they just over-identified with these horrific images because they thought it would make them different, dangerous, and exciting in some way. The question is, why would they have that thought in general? Clearly that wouldn't happen to every child, but something happened that clicked in the wrong kind of way, and thank God it was identified.
Real quick, what are signs that dark material like horror movies and things like that are getting the best of our kids?
You want to look at what your kids are listening to. Are they listening to dark music? Do they have a fascination with weaponry? Are they changing the way they look? Are their grades going down? So be very observant and be aware of what your children are listening to, reading, and what they're writing about.
Got it. Robbie, thanks so much. Robbie Ludwig.
Thank you.
On the story for us, and a disturbing one at that.